Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion on this beautiful August morning. I'm in what's called the High Meadow at the Notch, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Land of very tall flowers. Yeah, it's very Alice in Wonderland. They're taller in that other spot where I was, but they're pretty tall here too, you know? So anyway, my name is Kimberly Quinn, and I'm thrilled to have this discussion today. I might have a few in me today, actually. And I want to talk about, why do I just say I'm not usually an person. I hesitate. I usually say Anyway, I'd like to speak about not being afraid to be happy. Don't be afraid to be happy. I think that there's a bunch going on with this in our culture right now. There's definitely happiness pressure. So I know my students talk about it. There's happiness pressure. We feel like we have to be happy, and they talk about, this is the best 4 years of your life, da da da. And for many of us it was, but for many of them it just isn't. So there's that. There's the happiness pressure, and then sort of allowing themselves to be naturally happy instead of happy because you're pushed to it, forcefully. It just makes no sense. Quite a contradiction when you think about what happiness really is. So organically happy, right? And the other thing is just the whole thing of not being afraid to be happy, because many of us resist happiness. We actually resist happiness, and there are so many ways we resist happiness. And I'm thinking of those of us who are ACOAs, or adult children of alcoholics. And this video is not about that specifically, because it can be anybody for a multitude of reasons. It's just that many of us, especially firstborns in ACOA land, we really can put barriers up, put walls up around being happy, not even realizing we're doing it. And it's often, not always, with relationships. It can be other things. It can be sabotaging our happiness with success in school. It can be sabotaging our success with business, out in the professional world. It can be sabotaging relationships. Is a really common example, because we might get into a relationship where somebody's treating us well. They're the real deal, and yet we have a barrier up. We only want to go so far because, wow, that happiness thing is scary. What if I really like them, and then, I allow them into my heart and I get crushed? Okay, well, then I better break up with them first, or unconsciously, which is what usually happens, figure out a way to mess it up, like cheating or doing some kind of other behavior that's not conducive to a healthy relationship, and just mess it all up. And often the potential partner, is left really confused. Like, what did I do for her or him or them not to trust me? I don't even get it. Like they're the real deal. And so it's very important to be aware of the ways that we resist happiness. That was just one example. And there are all different ways to resist happiness. And what really is getting in the way, of course, is shame. And we've talked about that also before. Shame, a lot of the words start with D, defective, deficient, but not always. We're feeling flawed in some way, not enough, not as good as everybody else in some way. And underneath most things, any of the fill in the blanks with anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism, whatever, it's the shame itself that brings us down, not the actual whatever it is. Well, it's the same thing with the resistance to happiness. The source of that is, in some way, we are feeling flawed and defective and not worthy. So in order to be truly happy, we talked about this, you really got to work on yourself and what's going on behind the barriers. And Brene Brown does a lot of talk about this too, because I think we know this, that anything in life worthwhile, right, involves some component of risk, just how it is. Whether you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a new business, you might need to be broke for a really long time, lose some stuff, give up some stuff until, it all comes together for you. Definitely in relationships, because I think we know that a relationship can only be as rich as we are vulnerable, as we are willing to put our heart right out there, feel naked on a tree branch, as we say. And that's just the truth, because that's where the power is. And it's important to say, being vulnerable and letting our guard down with safe people. And that's really key, because if we've already been burned putting ourselves out there with people who are not safe and who cannot hold the confidence and don't have your back is obviously going to make things worse. With a loving, kind person, we're not saying perfect since that doesn't exist, but a loving, kind person who really, truly cares about you, I mean, that's the best thing. And the only way to really, have a long-lasting, deep, rich relationship is to have mutual vulnerability, obviously. And the other thing with don't be afraid to be happy is, did I say it again? It's because I gotta shift out of that habit. Talking about habits yesterday, I gotta shift out of that habit. Anyway, a lot of times when people are at the ends of their lives, and if they're talking about their regrets, and that's a stage that Erik Erikson talks about, developmental psychology. It's stage 8, when people are kind of looking back, either they were fulfilled or they have regret. And obviously there's a middle, because you can be fulfilled with a lot of things and have regrets about some things. However, mostly the regrets people have are what we're talking about, resisting happiness in some way. They might phrase it differently, but not leaning into those joyful moments, those little moments. Remember, joy involves spontaneity. So joy is different from happiness. Happiness is an overall feeling, which can be fleeting, and it can also be long-lasting if you work at it. Joy, however, is about these spontaneous moments where life just talks to us and life just happens. Those little, and not to sound cheesy, but it's true, little joyful moments when a child comes up to you with their picture they drew in kindergarten and they misspelled mom or dad or whatever. They, phonetically did this, and it's drew the family in little stick figures. And actually, it was funny because once, it was a funny story, because this is the joyful moment. It made his parents really laugh. My in-laws are awesome. And when he was little, he was mad at one of his brothers. There are 3 of them. And he left, I think he put him on the back of the picture. He drew the family picture and left out the brother and put him on the back because he was mad at that moment. Kind of gotta love that. And that's a joyful moment, just when he brings home the picture and part of it's folded over. And all those little moments that we have each and every day. And just the moments, I'm out in nature right now. There's all kinds of stuff. I saw salamanders doing the naughty in the pond, right? And I just thought to myself, you go on with yourselves, stress release. There could be a lot of stress going on in that pond. Snapping turtles, larger predators. Live in the moment, I'm thinking to the salamanders. You go for it, endorphin release on a salamander level. And all these joyful, just spontaneous moments. So oftentimes people on their deathbeds, that's what their regret is. It's not that they didn't, whatever it is was huge, that they didn't fly to the moon or something. It's often that, gosh, I wish I had been more present with my kids, with my partner. I wish I had taken more walks in the woods. And by the way, Giovanni, please don't be worried. Giovanni's not here this morning because he's at the spa. Yes, with our daughter. He had a sleepover. Last time he came home smelling like pumpkin spice, which is very nice. And that lasted until he took one jump into the beaver pond, and then that was sort of it for the pumpkin spice smell. But he's getting all those little hair clumpies that golden retrievers get when they swim, even though he wades, because he's a shallow end kind of guy. But anyway, so that's where G is. So please don't be worried. He's just going to come back looking amazing tomorrow. So anyway, that's it. So don't be afraid to be happy, because as far as we know, this is the big game. This is it. There isn't another go around. There's lots of different belief systems on that. However, we don't really know, right? And so this is not a dress rehearsal, is what I'm telling you. So dare to be happy. Dive in. Dare to be happy and dive in. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful land of tall flowers in northern Vermont. Have a mindful, very happy day.